You are listening to Committed, an ongoing conversation about marriage, intimacy, relationships, and sex. I'm a marriage and relationship coach dedicated to helping couples and individuals like you build stronger, more fulfilling relationships. I have a deep understanding of communication dynamics, conflict resolution, and intimacy. I guide clients through challenges with compassion and expertise. Hi! I can't believe that I'm here right now. I am so excited to bring my podcast to my channel, which I've had open for quite a while now, a few years, I think. And I kind of abandoned uploading because I wasn't really sure how it all worked. And so if you've been listening to my podcast and now you are watching on YouTube, welcome. Welcome to the pod. It's just me. Michael and I have had some different discussions about whether he will continue to join me on the podcast or not. And I think that the vision really going forward is that it's just me, not that he won't pop in here or there for a discussion. But I've been doing some really cool solo episodes by myself, and I wanted to bring that here to you on YouTube because apparently people like to watch podcast episodes as well. And I can attest to that because I watch podcast episodes sometimes if I'm available to actually watch them. I've been contemplating, what do I want to do this first video episode on? And that's been hard because I've been wanting to take some stories and kind of share them here from other people and respond to them. And something came up today. And so I want to pull it up. Someone had written a question for me off of one of my TikTok videos. And my TikTok video was all about body positivity, but more specifically about loving your body. And I'm a mom, as many of you know, and I have found that I've loved my body more after children, which is always interesting because a lot of people feel like I wish that I could go back to my 20s, maybe, and even in my teens, I loved my body. And once I had children, I have extra skin and stretch marks and extra fat, and I weigh more, and I've never been able to get back to the place that I was. And so I was inspired one day after my yoga class. I had gotten into my car and I had showered at yoga. So we have showers and a changing room, and I do Bikram yoga. And so, as you may know, if you're familiar with Bikram yoga, I was dripping sweat. And after yoga, I will shower. And many of the women in the changing room also shower. And so we're naked in there together. And it inspired me a little bit because there was a time in my life when I never would have done that. I never would have wanted to do it. I would have been very, very insecure about my body. And it's interesting that in my 30s, I feel less insecure about my body. I feel more secure. And so I want to read you this comment, and then I want to share a bit of background. I did an About Me episode a few weeks ago. I think we released it a couple weeks ago. I spoke about myself, and one thing that I didn't speak about was disordered eating and body image. And so I wanted to share that with you today because I got this comment from one of my followers, and I just appreciated it because it's something that I would love to expand more on with you here. So my video was about loving your body and appreciating your body and feeling comfortable in your body and how that affects your relationships and your marriages and your sex life, right? Because of course, all of this goes together. It's not just how I feel about my body, but when I'm in a relationship, engaging with another person, watching me change, maybe showering with them, showering in front of them, seeing all of our different body fluids and the things that happen with our bodies over time, because sometimes we gain weight and we lose weight and we gain muscle and we lose muscle and we get pregnant and have babies, and all of those things happen and our bodies change. And as we age, our bodies change over time as well. And so this could be difficult for many people. So the comment on my video was, okay, but how do us postpartum women do this? With one of those really distressed emoji faces. Mom of two and never struggled so much with my body image before. So I want to touch on this. I want to share a little bit about myself. When I was younger, I really struggled with my body image, just a lot. I grew up believing that skinniest is best, and many of us did. I grew up with all of the magazines, Elle Allure, Cosmopolitan, watching all of the models, and they were just so thin, and their clothes just seemed to fit them absolutely perfectly. And I remember as a kid going into stores and trying on the size that I thought that I should be wearing and having it not fit sometimes, feeling so joyful and almost relieved when the size did fit, and criticizing myself. I would pull on my body parts. I would pull on my clothes. I remember I would like ball up my fists and just, talking about this now, I can honestly remember viscerally what it felt like to be in that spot. I did not accept the size clothing that I sometimes fit into because it was just too big. And I would judge everybody around me. It was interesting because now that I think back, I really think about body dysmorphia, where you see yourself differently than other people may see you. I remember seeing people who had a larger body frame than I did at that time and feeling like their body was better than mine for some reason. And that was just a really challenging place to be in. You know, I was given messaging from family members sometimes that, oh, you look so skinny. I don't think that I was ever called fat by anybody, but I saw myself as fat. I said, I'm a fat girl, and that's bad. Looking back, I wasn't overweight. I was seeing myself in a way that other people probably weren't seeing me, and I was trying to fit into a mold rather than appreciating my body for what it was. Looking back, there was no way to look at my body a different way because of the society and because of the culture. And I think that we've come a long way with that. But struggling so much with that over time, all the way up into my 20s, and literally until I had children, I really, truly struggled. It wasn't until I started having kids at 25, and I think even after that, now that I really consider it, it was probably after 27 that I started to appreciate my body more. And it was interesting to be with partners that I thought really appreciated my body and felt enamored with my body and loved my body and wanted to touch me and hug me and kiss me and love me. I didn't want to do that to myself. I didn't like the way that I looked. I didn't like the way that my body looked, the way that my face looked, the way that my arms looked, my fingers, my feet, everything about myself, I would poke and prod mentally. And that was a very, very challenging time. And I look back sometimes with a lot of disappointment that I wasn't able to enjoy my life more. I would say also that my eating habits fit into a category of disordered eating. I would say to myself, okay, so you ate this one thing now. So then the next time that it's time to eat, you're allowed to eat this or you're not allowed to eat this. I would try to starve myself. I wasn't very good at it, luckily, because I just became so hungry and I didn't have apparently the endurance maybe to not eat. But I would restrict myself and I would feel happy when those hunger pains came, because I would say to myself that maybe I've achieved something by being hungry. Like, it's a good thing. To this day, I still feel something. It's not the same, but I feel something. Yeah, I've carried that throughout my life. I want to touch on the transition in terms of my confidence in my body and loving my body. I started to notice as I got older that when I take care of my body, I feel differently in it. And I spoke a bit about this in my TikTok video as well. When I work out, I feel good in my body. But I used to run a lot because I thought that that was the only way that I was going to lose weight. And I wanted to magically transform into a different body because I wanted a different body. I would look at other people and I would say, I want that body. I want that stomach. That tummy is better. I wish I could have that butt, those thighs. That was a really hard place to be in. And so I would work out too much and too hard. It was affecting my health. It was affecting my physical health. It was affecting my mental health. I was almost addicted. Like, if I don't do this, something bad is going to happen. That kind of dips into the OCD type stuff as well. I study psychology in my master's program right now. So I study a lot of the psychological disorders, and I see, of course, if you're ever a student in the medical field at all or the mental health field, it's like you think you have had or have everything that comes up. But truly, I would have fit into criteria for a few of these disorders. And people really throw around like, I have OCD. It's used sort of in like layman's terms now. Obsessive compulsive disorder is an actual disorder. You need to meet criteria, and it should be used sparingly. It should be used for utility. That's something that Michael and I spoke about in one of our earlier podcasts as well. You know, when we're looking at diagnosis, it's supposed to be used to help someone, not to hurt them. So let's go back. My workout and my exercise routines. I started to see a naturopath when I was in my early 20s, and I was studying my other master's program, which is a master's in integrative health and healing. So encompassed within that is naturopathic medicine. And along that journey, I started seeing my naturopath, and I remember she said, stop running. You can't run anymore. Don't do it. I want you to go for slow walks. Take your dog for a walk. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to get exercise that way? If I take my dog for a slow walk, it's going to take a long time. I'm not going to be able to get my heart rate up. And to this day, I have recognized that I no longer run. I did start running. I stopped, and then I started again. And then now I've stopped for good, and I will never go back to running. Running is not something that's for me. It works for other people. It doesn't work for me. I feel so good when I work out and I listen to my body, right? If I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like working out, there are some days where I push myself a little harder, and some days where I back off and I say, well, maybe I'll feel differently later, and I give myself time to kind of decide, is this aligning with me right now? Some days it's not a great day for a walk. Some days it's raining or storming out, or there's too much snow on the ground. But I do weight training. But I limit my weight training to 10 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on how I'm feeling. So really listening into your body is so important. I started to do those things. I also noticed how amazing it is that I could carry my 2 children in my uterus. Wow, I grew a baby. That is something to be so proud of. So for me, I know it can be a little different than others, right? You might look back and say, my body was so great back then. And once I started having kids, the quality of my body and the way that I have felt about myself has gone downhill. I get it. I understand that I'm a little different, right? I flipped because I spent so many years criticizing myself and feeling like I wasn't good enough, that nothing fit, that I didn't look good in clothes, that I wasn't a beautiful person. There were so many things that were wrong with me that I wanted to change, that I finally come to a point where I realize how exhausting that is. And the other problem, really in my realm of marriage, intimacy, sex, relationships, is how much the feelings that you have about your body and the confidence that you have in your body affects your relationships and your marriage. Because I would assume for many of you, your partner wants you and loves your body and appreciates your body, loves it exactly the way that it is today without any changes. So while I absolutely will make a plug for eating healthy foods and exercising your body and taking care of your mental health and taking care of your relationships, sometimes that looks like taking care of any past trauma that you realize has impacted you today, or whether it's trauma or not, whatever your upbringing has been to bring you to the place that you are today. Prioritizing and loving your body is so much more important than exactly what you look like, right? As I've gotten older, I've started to just buy my size. Like, I don't even think about it. Like, I don't think, I wish I was a 0. I'm like, no, I just grab my size, because the best thing for me is going to be looking good in the clothes, in the size and the body that I am right now, rather than wishing that I looked like somebody else. Because I realize it will be an uphill battle for the rest of my life. In the short years of my life so far, I've seen there will be no drastic changes to my body. I am at a healthy weight. I have gone to the doctor and taken all of my different vitamin and mineral and haven't done hormone, which can be kind of tricky, but I've had all of those tests done. And health-wise, nothing's wrong. And so there's no reason to move towards doing anything but what I'm doing now. Now, if you are being given a signal that something is off, and I've heard people talk about this in terms of you go to the doctor and they say that your BMI is too high, and there's controversy around that. I totally hear that. If it's just the one indicator that your BMI is too high, but everything else is coming back positive, maybe there's really nothing to look at. But if you're having health issues, well, then that's a reason to look into it further. And for people who have maybe a really high BMI and they're having blood pressure issues, or they're having respiratory issues, or they're having digestive issues, well, then there's something to look at, and you might find that there are drastic changes when you make lifestyle changes. But who I'm really speaking to is the people who criticize their body, either after kids or throughout their whole life, which is most of us women, I think, unless you've grown up in a family who's been really celebratory of your body. I think that we have to make a choice. Am I willing to let this affect my relationship and my sex life? And I think that's the first step. A couple other steps that I've mentioned here, aside from making a choice, which I think is absolutely the number one, making healthy choices, which could mean not working out as much. It could mean working out a little bit more because you know that it works for you. Now, do you need to go running? No. Do you need to play lacrosse? No. Maybe you swim. Maybe you jump on your kid's trampoline and you time yourself for 10 minutes a day. There are many options. Cardio isn't for everybody. Everyone has a different way of maintaining the state of their health, and you have to do what's best for you. And so really explore, think about how there are multiple options for you in the realm of exercising and being healthy. Think about the food that you're putting into your body. Think about the state of your mental health. Think about the connections and the people around you and the messaging that the people who are closest to you are providing. That is going to be your guiding light. If you're here watching this now, you can start today. Okay? You don't need to look at what's happened in the past to decide what's going to happen in the future. You can turn a new leaf. You can love your body exactly the way that it is. And maybe you make a few tweaks so that you feel better and better about yourself over time. Our biggest critic is ourselves, right? Notice that when we look in the mirror, we often heavily criticize ourselves, the way that we look, the way that we are, our personalities, but other people don't see us the way that we see ourselves most often, right? To start gaining confidence in ourselves, we will have more alignment with the other people that surround us, and we will have more harmony and more success in our relationships, both with others and within. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. If you're new to our community, welcome. We really want our podcast to grow. So please like, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review with your feedback on how we can make your experience most catered to you. As I work with my private clients continuously, this podcast is a great way for me to help more of you. Please reach out if you